Hello and welcome to another What's Inside. This time we are looking at Walt Disney's The Winnie the Pooh game. This is for ages 4 to 8 from Parker Brothers. This is the 1964 edition, and as you can see, this copy is very lovingly used. So unfortunately, these are hard to find in very nice condition, and when they are, they're very expensive more often than not because of the fandom around Winnie the Pooh and Disney collectibles. So unfortunately, my copy's really banged up, but it is mostly here and I know what pieces are missing, so let's take a quick look at the contents. First thing you'll notice is the instructions are not on the inside, they're on the insert. So the board has a sticker on it of the cover image, and as is often the case with these, it does have some mildewing, so you'll want to make sure the sticker is there and is as intact as possible. And of course you'll want to check the seam and the board to make sure it's not too moldy or broken or anything like that. Now inside we have a pretty standardized color system of going around. You start over here and you've got your 4 characters. You got Christopher Robin, Rabbit, Piglet, and Winnie the Pooh. Now the character pieces are often missing. We'll look at those in a minute. My Winnie the Pooh one is missing. But I have the other 3 ones broken, and that's the problem, is they used really cheap plastic. And of course you go around the board and end up at various instances. Now as you can see, this one's pretty faded and battered, but you do end up at the North Pole. That's the goal for some reason. Why Winnie the Pooh wants to go to the North Pole, a little beyond me, but here we are. So that's what the board looks like. Pretty straightforward. It's actually a pretty decent quality board, so there is that. Now here's the insert with the actual rules on it. It's very straightforward of a game. There's not a lot of components, and it operates like most board games of this era. Now there is a little tray here that's supposed to collect the pieces, and we, unfortunately, unlike most games that use cards, this one uses a grab bag with chits. So it is just a little cloth bag, and it does say grab bag for playing Winnie the Pooh from Parker Brothers. So this is actually very difficult to find the bag. I've only seen a couple of these that have the bag in even remotely good condition. This was why I bought this copy, was it had the bag. The bag is a little dirty and probably a bit moldy, but it's held up pretty well considering it was in storage for a long time. But then you just have these plastic little like tiddlywinks chits that are different colors. We got black, purple, yellow, red, orange, green. Usual colors. These are fairly easy to replace if you find an old copy of Tiddlywinks. They usually use the same pieces. And I think you could still buy these things on Amazon. So replacing these won't be too bad, because these are just kind of cheap plastic. The parts that you're going to have the most problem with are the character pieces. Now as you can see, somebody substituted the yellow Winnie the Pooh for a regular Milton Bradley piece, so that's not even part of this game. And the base for Piglet is missing, but you get an idea of what he looks like. Now this is very, very old, thin plastic. 60s plastic is trash 99% of the time. So one step on this or dropping it from a large distance could damage it. If you step on it, it's gone. So you gotta be aware of that this is something that will break very, very easily. There was Rabbit, and here's Christopher Robin. They're nicely cut out, you know who's who, and it probably cost a fair bit to do this at the time, but by today's standards, these are really, really cheap plastic. And much like Candyland and things like that use a color system, you would expect them to have cards, because this sort of implies like the old Candyland cards, but the fact that it uses this grab bag with these little plastic pieces is really interesting. And you don't see much of stuff like this. It was mostly cards, but this is probably a slightly more expensive way to do it, because the cards are fairly easy to produce and cheap. Now, there aren't that many of these chits here, and I'm not sure because there's nothing I could find online about how many of these are supposed to be here, and I couldn't find a sealed copy of this. It would have been fairly out of my financial range anyway, but I only have 2 of the black ones, and I'm guessing that was probably a replacement black piece. So be aware that there might be different numbers of these in your copy, and you might have to get 2 or 3 sets and count them out individually in each one to get a full counting of what's supposed to be here. So that's what's in the 1964 Winnie the Pooh game from Parker Brothers. This is Parker Brothers number 15. So this is going to appeal to many different collectors, not just board game collectors, but you got your Disney crowd and you've got your Winnie the Pooh crowd as well. So the prices on these do tend to be a little more expensive than you would think. Even though they made probably a couple million of these, they are kind of hard to find in good shape, like I said. And the fact that you don't know how many chits are supposed to be there and the pieces, you want to make sure you get the cutout pieces if you're buying this for anything over a handful of dollars. So yeah, some things to be aware of. But overall, my phone just fell down. Overall, it's not a bad game for little kids, but it's going to appeal more toward vintage collectors than I think little kids. You're not going to want little kids playing with these very fragile old plastic pieces. So you could probably replicate it or something like that and play that with them and keep your nice copy somewhere else. But it's going to be kind of difficult to let little kids play with something this old and this fragile. But if you're a big Winnie the Pooh or Walt Disney person, you're definitely going to want to add this. The bright colors and imagery really does bring out a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people. But as a board game collector, this is a little too much like a lot of board games from this era. So there's nothing particularly unique here as far as gameplay. It's just the nostalgia factor and the simplicity of it. So it's going to be kind of whether or not you collect Disney or Winnie the Pooh stuff, I think, or Parker Brothers. So that's going to do it for this one. We've seen what's in the box. You've heard my take on it. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. It's greatly appreciated. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.